I can pick them up.
That's going to be scary working under that.
It's
when you think about it,
if you get it set right,
you stop thinking about it.
My thing is trying not to bang my head into stuff, because I'll be so focused on what I'm doing and moving, and then I forget that certain things are poking down under the chassis, or like hitches. If I had $1 for every time I've headbutted a drop hitch on a truck, I mean, I'd be a rich man right now. Or the lift arms themselves.
You're supposed to hit those with your shin, man, not your head. This Jeep Talk Show episode is brought to you by realtruck.com. Hey, get where you're going, then keep going. Gear, parts, and accessories built to explore well beyond where off-road goes off-grid. Get real deals on performance parts and off-road accessories at realtruck.com. Here we go, and I'm no longer alone. I was alone all last week, Greg. I had to do the shows.
Sorry, Tony.
I had to do the show. Well, you're sorry. What about the listeners, the viewers?
I'm sorry, viewers and listeners and sponsors. I'm sorry. Had some stuff going on. It was a wild week, but I'm back. I'm ready. We're here.
It's like I tell all you co-hosts that naps are more important than doing this show. I don't want anybody thinking that it's something that has to be done, because I can always do it by myself, and that's clear. It's just not as much fun for me, because it's a lot more fun, talking off of somebody and making dumbass comments and stuff. And when I make the dumbass comments on myself, it's not as fun. I don't make the
doesn't have the same zing to it, because you don't have the reaction.
Yeah, I don't have the same face that you guys make. Like, what the hell are you talking about? All right, this is Tony, and welcome to the Jeep Talk Show. On tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about bump stops, limiting straps. All this sounds like sexual aids to me, come to think of it.
Or some S&M shit, right?
Yeah. There's a dancing pole involved somehow. So before we get there, though, I want to talk about the bump stops, not the sexual stuff. Before we get to the bump stops and limiting straps, I want to talk to you guys about Spotify. Now, I don't know if you how do you listen to the show, Greg?
I'm definitely big time Spotify.
Okay.
If it's most of the time it's Spotify for me, because it's with the way my phone is and the stuff at the shop with my Bluetooth, it's just like automatic. If I start an episode and I have to pause it to answer the phone or drive home or whatever the case may be,
that's perfect.
I can literally reconnect at any time and it will pick right back up there without me having to touch a thing. And I can close the app while I'm listening to it, unless you pay the premium for YouTube if you close the app. Because if at work, I'm not watching the video, I'm just listening to the audio while I work. And so I don't really care for the YouTube one, because I'm forced to leave the screen open all the time, because I don't pay for YouTube. Right? I'm not trying to do that.
No.
Regular YouTube app, you can't close it and just listen to the audio. That was really frustrating years ago for me, because I got big into the audiobooks. I'd listen to a lot of audiobooks on YouTube, but this, the battery time and the data usage, because it's a static image, but it's still a video, right? It's not just the audio, so it's soaking more up of that data. But yeah, when I got turned on to Spotify, it was like, ooh, this is cool. I like this.
So I think Spotify is going to give YouTube a run for their money eventually, because I just kind of accidentally happened upon this where they were talking about uploading videos to Spotify, and I was like, really? You can upload a video to Spotify? And then I started uploading the videos, our YouTube videos. It doesn't have to be YouTube. It's a video. Started uploading to Spotify, and then I found out that you could be listening to the Spotify thing, press the little button, and it switches to video. There's no delay. There's no buffering. It's like the video's playing all the time, and then it just turns off the video on your phone. Like you say, you can
you can switch back and forth with the audio, the video, or you can literally just close your screen where it's a black screen, and the audio will keep playing for whatever device you've got it connected to via Bluetooth or otherwise. It's pretty cool. So I enjoy it that way.
So we just recently went whole hog, or what is it? Never go full retard. We just recently went full retard, and I'm now uploading 2 videos per episode, because we have 2 Spotify podcast channels. We have the one for the Patreons, which is ad free. And then we have the other one, the one you're probably using, which is for everybody, and it has ads in it. So I've started uploading a video without ads to the Spotify that you can attach to Patreon. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, you can go over to Spotify, put in the code that you get from Patreon or whatever. I'd have to look it up to tell you exactly. And now you get ad-free video or ad-free audio. So
for those of you looking on Spotify for the first time, if you haven't seen it already, the logo is color-coded between the Patreon version and the free version. So you can just at a glance, you can see which one you're looking at it's orange for one, white for the other. If
orange,
I'm not mistaken. So,
the orange with ads, and then the red one with the Patreon logo on it.
Red one. Sorry, I said white.
Yeah, the red one with the Patreon logo on it is the one for the Patreon subscribers. I think it will allow you to listen to the first 5 minutes or watch the first 5 minutes if you're on the Patreon one. But anyway, we made it a little less cumbersome for you guys. I mean, it's still 2 different podcasts on there, but I don't know of any way to set it where you can do both. Just whether or not you have a Spotify. I'm sorry, a Patreon.
We're giving them
code.
options. We're giving them options. So that's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't have to be stuck with one.
Well, you mentioned YouTube Red. I think that's what you called it.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing there, is that they're giving you options, and they're taking away the ads and so on and so forth. And we're doing basically the same thing, but we're not having to have 4,000 hours watched a year and blah blah blah. And I'm sure we'll get there, and then we'll do things on YouTube as well, because people can like YouTube. But I'm not kidding you, man. I mean, we're not making any money off of it. So we're actually spending money this through time and effort and storage, because I had to buy more disk space over here so I could keep all these videos online but offline and near online and blah 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 blah. I'm in IT. So so we're trying to make it better for you guys, and hopefully you're enjoying the videos. I think the video quality has really gone up. I mean, if you're looking at Greg's background now, you're going, oh wow, where is he at?
Pretty cool.
We're
Technology.
We're working green screens now. So yeah, we're trying to make the show better, and hopefully you're enjoying it. And hopefully if you're getting any entertainment or any information out of these episodes, you'll consider becoming a Patreon subscriber. All right, enough for the shop talk there, but the Spotify is working. Oh, and that's the other thing I didn't mention. I had synced the 2 podcasts together, which really screwed everything up. So I unsynced them. I was able to unsync them. So now it's back to normal, so that you can, make a choice between which one you want to watch or listen to. All right. So Greg, it's going to be your turn to talk for the next 30 minutes. I may jump in there with a question or two, but let's talk about bump stops and limiting straps. I think this is an excellent topic, because we did a little talking about bump stops on the roundtable last week, and I think bump stops kind of make sense. The limiting straps are kind of strange. I mean, they make sense once you find out what they are, but they're a little like, really? You need something on there to hold the stuff together?
You do.
I'll say it again. I got to get it out right now. No modification goes unpunished. All right, Greg, take it away.
So we'll go ahead and start with the more traditionally well-known, the bump stops. Most people are used to seeing, the little rubber snubber that's located in a cup on your frame above a welded pad on the axle assembly. And the whole point of that is to control that last little bit of suspension up travel, so we're not smashing metal axle tubes into metal frame rails. The problem happens when you start doing suspension work. You want a little bit of lift, so you get a little bump stop spacer, or you get a little pad that bolts to the axle side to extend the contact surface, so that the factory rubber snubber can still make contact at the appropriate, time. And a lot of those kits, it basically boils down to either just a fabricated steel extension that bolts on in place of, the factory locating, on the axle tube, or you'll end up with some of the aftermarket ones are actually an extended bump stop snubber itself, and it's made out of a more dense material that will take more abuse. Some of them, and I'm not going to pick on brand names here, but if you know, some of them are basically just glorified hockey pucks with holes in the middle of them. And you can stack them up. They're incremental. Some of the more fancy ones, like if you look at the TerraFlex version, they're more like for the JKs and JLs, JTs. It's more of a rectangular shape instead of being round, and they come in different increments where you can go 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, and they're modular, so you can stack those as well and really fine tune.
And they do that. Then they do that so you can adjust it, because no bump stop is universal.
No such thing. And then if you get really sincere where you're really pushing the vehicle a little bit harder, they've got upgrade. Terraflex has got some, and there's a few other brands that are they're more like a can, and they've got either compressed air or a nitrogen oil mix in them. They're often referred to as hydraulic bump stops.
Okay.
And then like King's got some, and it's basically when you get into those, the really nice higher end ones, like what King Shocks offers. It's what I've got on mine. They come in different lengths of travel, 2 inches, 4 inches. Some of them are 6. You can have custom ones built if you really want to swing a big purse or a big stick. But the idea being is that it is a secondary shock, if you will, normally with a little bit higher pressure charge than a regular shock would have. But instead of just having a plastic or metal on closed foam cell or rubber impact, this hydraulic actuated bump stop will control that last, whatever the travel length is. Like on mine, it's 2 inches. So it'll control that last 2 inches of up travel. And most importantly, on top of ride comfort and keeping from tearing stuff up, we are limiting, watch this, how much we compress our shocks, because it is entirely possible to over compress your shock and cause damage. Now, that being
when
said,
you say shock, you mean the actual shock, not the hydraulic bump stop.
Shock, yeah, the actual shock. So that hydraulic bump stop is designed to take that abuse. Now, we also have to think what happens when we go the other direction. We extend our shocks all the way, and we don't want to do damage to those. So how do we control that down travel? Real easy answer. It's a limit strap. You can get them in almost any length, and they have different ratings for different weight vehicles. A lot of folks don't notice how important that can be if they're still running a smaller size tire, let's say a 35 or a 37 on a stock axle. We haven't significantly increased the weight like you can with a 1-ton swap, or really heavy steel wheels, or a really large tire where you get into like a 40-inch or larger diameter. So even a good aftermarket shock has its limits on how hard we can extend it and not do damage. Mm-hmm. So, and I've done it. I've done it to Foxes, and I've done it to some of the lower end Bilsteins, where the weight of the wheel, tire, and axle combination, if there's nothing to stop the tire, like you catch a rear frame rail coming off a ledge and one corner just falls out, literally the only thing holding the axle to the chassis at that point is the shock. Mm-hmm. Your spring's not doing it. The control arms will flex, if you've got aftermarket flexi control arms, but that instant drop of all that weight has got to go somewhere.
And it's not not just the weight of the axle and the tire. It's more so because it's a sudden thing. So it's just like
it's a shock. Boom,
Yeah. So it could go up. It could go thousands of pounds more that instant, and that's what breaks things. And correct me on this, the thing that the shock bolts to at the bottom, you can actually peel that off the axle, can't you?
Yeah, you can bend or damage or rip your shock mounts off. You can damage hardware. You can damage the bushings. Repeated actions of that may not tear up the shock body itself, but all those other components are going to suffer for it. So a limit strap effectively does exactly what its name is. It limits the articulation down so that we're not overextending the shock, and we're not shock loading all those other components with a sudden hit of all that weight coming down on the shock alone. And a lot of folks don't think about it in those terms until it's too late and they've already realized, like, now I'm tearing shit up.
What the hell happened here? What do I got to do to make this stop from happening again $3,000 later?
I'll be brutally honest. I was that guy years ago.
Oh, sure.
I kept tearing up my rear shocks, and I was like, why do I keep pulling these things apart? Because on the smaller, like the 5100 series Bilsteins and the 5125s, there's not, you don't realize how delicate where the rod, that not the body itself, but the actual shock rod goes into that eyelet. Mm-hmm. It is literally just a little fine threaded union right there with a tiny little weld on it. And if you yank on that thing hard enough several times, it pulls the threads in that spot weld right
and you may get away a few times, and then all of a sudden, and maybe you're not doing something massive, and it goes, This is another reason why you want to inspect your Jeep, especially after a wheeling trip.
Pre-flight, post-flight. Yep. Pre-flight, post-flight. You got to look at all this stuff. So I did, and a lot of people will go, well, what size do I get? Dude, I've got 12-inch travel shocks. Do I need 12-inch long limit straps? Not necessarily. It's going to depend on where you mount it and how much you want it, because they do stretch. So like a 20-inch limit strap given the application, because they've got different widths, thicknesses, and lengths, and they've got different ways, different hardware on either end of certain straps. They're rated for a certain amount of weight. So like the limit straps that will work great on your neighbor's Polaris Razor will not work on your Jeep. Don't try to use those. If you get on Summit, you see them, oh man, these 20-inch straps are only $50 each. Well, those are for a UTV. Those aren't for a full-size vehicle. Do your homework. But they will stretch the first few times you use them, just like a winch lead will. Steel cable or synthetic winch ropes, they will stretch. Sure. You have to pre-tension them. So limit straps do the same thing. Ideally, you want them where they're not going to interfere with your suspension travel. They're not going to ride up against an exhaust pipe or get tangled up in a brake line or anything like that. And you want the mounting points to be pretty solid.
They have to be solid.
Yes, it has to be very solid because it's taking a lot of pressure all at once when they do their thing. So I've got grade 8 5/8 hardware holding mine on, and I made special 3/8 tabs that I welded to the axle and to the chassis and reinforced with little gussets for mine.
That's nice.
But mine, again, we've said this a million times, it's not a fair comparison because my axles are so much bigger and heavier and my tires are so much bigger and heavier than what you would normally see on a regular Jeep. I had to kind of overdo it because I knew I was asking a lot of these things. So they do wear out eventually because of the cycling. It's just like a racing harness or a seat belt or any of those kind of things.
But they're not difficult to swap. They're not difficult to swap, and they really aren't that expensive.
And done. So I think mine, God, what brand were they? Now I can't even remember because it's been too long ago. So I'm probably due for new ones, to be honest with you. But I think mine were like, because I did 18-inch long ones is what I did. And they were like $67, $68 plus tax and shipping each. So really not bad. It's cheap insurance.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
The initial install can be kind of a pain in the ass because you want to find just that right spot to mount them. And it can vary from, like what works well on your XJ, given how your chassis is reinforced and the axles you're running versus, what you're doing with the Gladiator. Again, it's not.
It sounds like to me that it's not a bad idea to put straps even on minimal modified Jeeps because you don't know.
Cheap insurance.
Yeah. The problem there would be is where you can attach them because you may not be able to weld to the axle, but places like Platinum Off-Road, you could get that done.
Yep. You can get that done. Any decent driveline shop, any decent off-road shop or upfitter shop that has that capability can get you set up on it. Like on the front of mine, I actually did the frame side. That's double shear through the frame rail. And on the inside, I oversized it, put a sleeve in, and then welded it back. Mm-hmm. So the compression of the nut and bolt, that 5/8 nut and bolt, is holding it just like you would for like a leaf spring shackle or something. I've got every bit I can soak up in there to hold it in. And then on the axle side, again, I've got those real heavy duty tabs that I burned on. So there's single shear on that side, but it's double shear at the frame in the front, single in the back. So I take that worry out of the equation. It's like, well, if I do bottom out the chassis and the whole axle goes, I know I can count on those things to keep the axle in place and not tear up my shocks doing it. So
do the limiting straps come in colors, and can you get any with LEDs?
No, I haven't seen any with LEDs, to be honest. I know somebody that's doing the mesh roofs for Jeeps nowadays that's got LEDs built into them.
Oh, yeah.
The light your top guys, you've seen those? That's pretty cool. But you can get different colors.
I did that for the face plants. There's people face planting about the LEDs, limiting straps. And really, I just made the comments, toe straps. That's really kind of the same thing, isn't it? Because they're like nylon straps. They're probably not 3 or 4 inches wide, but I guess you could get them that wide. If you can
get them that way. No, you've got different widths, different ply rating. Basically, how many times it's double backed over. Think of like a really badass racing harness. If you've ever been up close to a drag car, or professional rock bouncer, or trophy truck, or something like that. That's basically how they're built. It's like a heavy duty toe strap. It's just a lot shorter. Some of them are D-ring style, some of them have plate that's, plate steel, some of them are anodized, some of them are just raw, so you can do whatever you want with them. But just make sure that you're looking at ones that'll work for a full-size vehicle and not the UTV. Because if you put them off a UTV on your Jeep, you're going to rip them in half and really be mad.
Well, that's like getting excited about buying tires. We go, oh, these tires are cheap, and then it's for ATV. Yeah.
I had a buddy do that. He's like, man, I found a place that's got these 37-inch stickies for next to nothing. And I went and looked at them and saw what they were, and it's like, yeah, they're 4-ply rating and meant for a 17-inch by 4-inch wide ATV wheel, with a max load of like 1,250 pounds per tire. It's like, you're not going to run those under your Jeep, buddy. I'm sorry.
Not long, anyway.
So
it sounds like it's a great idea. Is there a way to do limiting straps without having to weld something?
Yeah. Yep, you can do bolt-ons. If you have any bracketry, and a cheap, easy way to do it, if you really are in that kind of a position, is you can use your shock mounting hardware on the axle side. So you just piggyback the tab off of the limiting strap to, put the head of your shock bolt through it and then bolt it in your shock like you normally would. But in that point, you're depending upon the structural integrity of the shock mount itself.
Right. You're saving the shock basically when you do it that way.
Yeah, but it's an easy way to do it, but you're limited on how much strength you're going to have there based on whatever shock tab or shock bracket you were bolting it to.
Right.
So if it's
I'm
a Dana
very much
with like 35s, it's not that big of a deal. But if you're running 40s on a 1-ton or something, axle assembly or bigger,
I'm very much a myself kind of guy. I do all my work on my own. I don't really have a shop that I can go to. You guys are too far away. So that's why.
Man, I had a guy come all the way to when I was still in Round Rock, when I first opened, I had a guy come all the way down from the other side of Oklahoma City with an XJ on Super Duty axles on the back of his trailer and spend the weekend in Austin while I re-geared his Jeep and then trailered it home. So you're not that far away. I've had customers come from a lot further away.
Yeah. Well, you've had customers that are willing to drive 4 hours or more. I'm not. But no, I see what you're saying there. And that may be a possibility for lots of people out there that are listening, because tell everybody where you guys are located again.
Platinum Drivetrain Works. We're located in Hutto, Texas. And the shop number is 325-248-4000. You can get us, all over social media, YouTube. If you want to check out the mothership, the main shop, that's Platinum Off-Road. It's in Rockball, Texas, and that's Mike and the crew up there. And they are dedicated Jeep specialists up there. They don't work on anything but Jeeps.
Well,
at the drivetrain
cool.
shop, I work on all of it. If it'll fit on the lift or in the shop, I work on it. All makes, models, two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, off-road, you name it. So actually have a quote fixing to go out for an F550 that we got contacted about today. So I don't know if you've ever seen a Dana S135 rear axle. No. It's kind of like a Rockwell 2.5-ton axle, but a little bit different. Big dropout third, big square tubes. It's a heavy-duty sucker, big 10-lug, You got
a forklift in there for lifting these things?
Nope, but I got 11,000-pound capacity rack, so...
Trail Access Post-Project Report, Venture Unknown Foundation. At Real Truck, few initiatives are as impactful or as inspiring as our Trail Access grant program. So far this year, we've supported Tread Lightly, Jeep Beach, and Sierra Buttes Trail Stewardship, each making incredible strides in conservation, access, and community impact. The Venture Unknown Foundation, VUF, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving the natural world, particularly in public lands. Its 5,000-member network serves as a guardian for the outdoor and overland community, promoting exploration and education, as the organization states on its website. In a world where our beautiful public lands are at risk or neglect, our foundation stands as champion for their preservation and conservation. You can read more about this over at realtruck.com/blog. Just go to realtruck.com/blog and look for Trail Access Post-Project Report Venture Unknown Foundation.
I can pick them up.
That's going to be scary working under that.
It's...
when you think about it,
if you get it set right, yeah.
You stop thinking about it.
My thing is trying not to bang my head into stuff, because I'll be so focused on what I'm doing and moving, and then I forget that certain things are poking down under the chassis, or like hitches. If I had $1 for every time I've headbutted a hitch, a drop hitch on a truck, I mean, I'd be a rich man right now. Or the lift arms
you're
themselves.
You're supposed to hit those with your shin, man, not your head.
Oh shit, no. That's the head hurts less. I'm telling you, I'd rather take one to the dome than walk into one on the back of a truck with my shin, which I've done. So
we're always looking at ways to make money. I just thought you could get a crappy Jeep, or preferably not a Jeep, maybe some other piece of crap, put it up on the lift, and then you need to shop security camera, and then have it fall off the lift, and then put that up on YouTube or someplace, Instagram TikTok, and get 1 million views.
No, I
do it to a Bronco.
I've seen it. I saw the one that made the rounds for a long time, where the C7 or C6 Corvette falls off the lift.
Yeah,
because he didn't have it centered. And that's $30,000 used automobile to a regular person, but to a Corvette aficionado, it's just pure blasphemy watching that car hit the ground. I've seen them. I'm sure y'all have too, where it's a unibody, but instead of putting it on the designated lift points, they just grab whatever that it fits under and they start to pick it up, and it just crushes everything by the weight of the own car going up. And you go, oh man, how do you explain that to the customer at the end of the day? That's what shop insurance is for. Don't worry about it. It's like, no, you don't want to be that guy.
Well,
because
insurance goes up too.
Ever and ever after that, you're the dumbass that screwed up somebody's car because you didn't know what you were doing.
Right.
And that will haunt you for the rest of your life. I've been fortunate that I've never had one fall off a rack. Cross my heart, knock on wood. But I've had some close calls, where things will shift, like the safety pin wasn't set right, because the spring was bound up, or
that's so pad, scary.
Split.
What's that noise? Why is that moving? Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I've got a set of heavy duty pole jacks for the longer full wheelbase trucks. Like your big full size trucks that are 4 doors, long beds, that kind of stuff. Even on an 11K lift, 2-post lift, those things will go to teetering sometimes if you put too much gusto into what you're working on underneath it. So right. I learned early on, it's like I've got these pole jacks to put under there and stabilize things so that it can't rock and shift. Because that you do that and you feel it moving. Or like some of them have like work boxes and other stuff on them, and they've got the little chains or little this or that, and you hear that thing tinking and swaying, and you look up and the whole truck's kind of doing like this while you were just, preloading a pinion, and you go, maybe I shouldn't be standing under here right now.
Let's let everything settle down a bit.
If it comes down, it's like, who's going to know?
Let's back up here and see if I can rethink this. Yeah.
Yeah. So it definitely, you got to be careful.
This is a good point. I don't think we've talked about this before. I've seen people, and I'm sure you have too, seen people working on their vehicles in their driveway, in their garage, and they've got the vehicle up on jacks. It may be jack stands. They may be doing it right, not just a lift. I mean, not just a hydraulic jack, because you should never work on things that if you just got a hydraulic jack holding it up, you need it on jack stands. And I think most people do the jack stand thing. But like you were talking about, things can move around sometimes, especially if you're on a slanted driveway, which you shouldn't be doing, but we all do. And
just pulling the wheels and tires off of one end can make a weight shift enough to actually, change it. I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
So
it was one day I was underneath the XJ working on it, and I was looking at all this stuff, and and it always seems to come to me like when I'm doing brakes, and that disc is right there over your feet or over your legs, and all it has to do
crotch.
all it has to do is come down, and you're going to be pretty severely damaged.
You're done.
Maybe lose a leg. I mean, the bottom part of your leg. So I try to move my leg so I'm not right underneath that. I've never had a situation where anything fell, but just in case. And then one day I was underneath there, underneath the XJ with lots of shit on it. It's heavier than a regular XJ. And I'm thinking to myself, if anything should happen, this thing's coming down. There's nothing between me and these rockers, the rock rails. I'm going to be underneath this thing. And even if it doesn't break anything, I'm not going to be able to breathe. And I pulled myself out a little bit, looked around, and there's a 33 12.5 by 15.
Yeah.
And I went, why don't I take that thing and slide it under the XJ? So I at least have a chance of not being crushed and getting out of there, and then bitching about, that was crazy. This had never happened in a million years, Doc, that type of thing. So that's what I started doing.
It happened to me on a field repair way back in the day. I used to run around with a bunch of guys that were into the K5 Blazer platform.
Yeah, love those.
And one of the guys in the group, he had 38-inch swampers on his 10 bolts and a fire-breathing 454. And he would break 28 spline C-clip axles in the back end of that thing on a regular basis. We were always swapping axles in the riverbed for this thing. They were all mud trucks and stuff. He'd break them trying to yank people out of stuff, trying to show off with his big 38-inch TSLs. He thought he was hot shit back then. And of course, back then, a 38-inch TSL was a serious tire.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're talking about the, early 2000s. It was, it was a big deal. I had 37-inch boggers, and I thought I was king diddly shit.
I put 37s on my 83 Chevy pickup, short wheelbase. It was great.
Yep. We were doing a field repair on his in the sand flats at the Canadian River, and they wanted to put the wheels and tires, or one of them that we had the side that was put. They wanted to slide it under the axle housing while I was under there, and we had a single high lift jack jammed into the receiver of his hitch that was holding it up, the whole truck. And I was like, no, the other tire's still on. I mean, worst case scenario, it'll tip a little bit. I'm not worried about it. And I'm under there doing my thing, and nobody's touching it. Nobody's nearby. Now, you have to bear in mind, my buddy Scott is a big boy. Okay. I'm 6'1", 250, 255 without my boots on. This guy had biceps that were like my thighs. He was a large guy, looked like almost sumo wrestler style large. He was big, and he was strong. That thing came down on me. I'm sitting under it, cross. Of course, it had 8-inch lift, so it's not like the back of the truck was real close to the ground. There was enough room for me to sit in the sand, cross-legged, and be messing with this differential, trying to get the C-clip broken stub out of here, right? And I felt it shift. I could hear it above my head. It moved against my hair, and I was like, guys. And before I could finish saying guys, it came down, and it shifted back over. It went to the side where the tire was still on, and then it came back over where we didn't put the tire back underneath it. And that gas tank skid come down on the back of my head and shoved me into, fetal position, face crotch, and I start hooping, and those boys, they picked up the back of that Blazer and drug me out from underneath it. 6 grown-ass men picked that thing up in the sand, and Scott reached under there, grabbed me by the nape of my neck, and pulled me out. And he's cussing me. They're like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah,
we
you
told you to
scared him.
put that tire under there. It was all my fault. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to fix your truck. Calm down. He's like, I could have killed you, you fucking moron.
This won't be the last time I need you to fix it, man. So you can't die now.
The lesson learned. It's like, we all learn those hard lessons at some point. It's not a matter of if, it's when. So lesson learned.
When you said high lift, you're doomed to failure. I mean, not that a high lift isn't a bad jack, but depending on how high you raise them, it's very tilty. Yeah, it's very tilty. Yeah.
And he had, I don't know if you remember, they had those injection molded bases for those things back then when they first came out.
But they're still tiny in comparison.
I mean, and he had one of those on it, which is great for keeping it from sinking into the stand, but it didn't help with the stability because we were in sand. So it's a stupid move on my part. I was just in a hurry. I thought, I'm not going to be under here 5 minutes and this will be done and blah, blah, blah. Stupid decision that almost cost me my life. Honestly, at a bare minimum, I'd ended up in a wheelchair for the rest of my life.
But you have a great story. You have a great story for a podcast, and you may have just saved somebody's life. Never.
Don't crawl under anything that's being held up by a high lift jack. I don't care how tough you are. Don't do it. It's not recommended.
It's fine to use the high lift to get it up, but now you need to put other stuff underneath it.
Don't go into the vehicle.
Get other stuff underneath it before you go under there. So. I love high lift. I mean, and make sure that you get a high lift, not a
not one of the off ones,
off
brand.
No, it's just not worth.
Those things are horrible.
Yeah,
I've been smacked by handle. I've had them pop back on me. I mean,
I've never had it hit me, but it's gotten real close. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. You gotta lock this thing into place.
I took a grazing shot to the chin one time. It knocked me on my ass, but it didn't break my jaw. But it was like getting kicked by a mule. It did. It put me on my butt. And I was like, these things, they're just inherently dangerous if you're not careful with them. You got to respect them. So
fun.
Like using an oxyacetylene torch.
So going back,
work done, but they're dangerous.
Oh yeah. So going back to the bump stops, I know whenever I got the Mopar lift for my Gladiator, it came with new bump stops. So they adjust it, and they give you bump stops based on what the lift is. And I don't know if all lifts come that way or not. That wasn't the case with my XJ. It didn't come with bump stops, but I had a very inexpensive lift. So, it's how do you, I guess you would have to use the high lift jack to adjust, find out what size bump stops you needed.
So the way I like to do it is especially if you have access to a vehicle lift, with the wheels and tires and the springs off, where it's just the shocks and the axle and the control arms, and usually disconnect your sway bar too, but you don't have to. I will just use heavy duty ratchet straps without the coil springs in there, and ratchet strap the axle up into the chassis to determine.
Yeah. And now you don't have anything holding it back too. So it's really easy
it just goes right up.
Yeah.
You can do this on the ground as well. If you have the chassis supported, you can put your floor jack under the diff or under each side and do it one side at a time.
Yeah. You have to angle it, right?
We're looking, we want it to be where the end of the shock, the rod, just right before it bottoms. Give yourself 3/8 to a ½ inch worth of cushion there, but we don't want the shock completely collapsing on itself. So you want to set your bump stop to maximize that, but stop it where it needs to stop. And then for a lot of people, it also becomes controlling where the tire can make contact if possible. So if you're more worried about your tire clearance on sheet metal versus collapsing the shock, well, then you leave the wheel and tire on, but it's a whole lot easier if you don't have the spring in there.
Right.
You can do it with the spring in there, but it's going to pick the vehicle up if the spring is in there. So you're not going to get maximum without putting, like, if you go flex the thing out on an RTI ramp, like you guys talked about the other day, or an obstacle, take the springs out, put the wheel and tire on, make sure you've got adequate clearance, and you can dial in your bump stop for that too. Ideally, you do it for both, because we don't want to cut up our tires with sheet metal. We want to trash them on the rocks and on the trail. We don't want to tear them up with our own body panels.
And we don't want to tear up the body panels either. Oh, and I completely forgot, where they say spring is just around the corner. That's another reason why you want a limiting strap, because you can articulate it so much that the coil spring will literally come out of the perch.
Yeah, seen that happen a lot too.
And you got to go.
If you're not running some kind of retention device on your coil springs, the shock's the only thing keeping it in check. So yeah. And there was one setup I had years back where the shock was actually not as long a travel as what I've got now, but because of the spring arrangement, they would still pop out. And it was on my LJ. Fortunately, they've got that long tube that sticks off of the upper mount, so they wouldn't just fall out, but they would come down and clang around and make all kinds of racket until you compressed it back into position. And I finally got tired of listening to it, so I picked up some of those inexpensive little strap deals, and you just use a self-tapping bolt, and it holds the pigtail of the shock. Be careful doing that. If you're going to do both ends and capture the coil spring, you want to make sure that you're not using hardware that can't take that level of stress, because they'll rip apart and make more problems.
I've never had a new TJ, and I was noticing that on my wife's TJ, 2003 TJ, it doesn't have those straps for the coils, the little straps that go on the bottom right next to the shock mount, but the XJ does. So
isn't that weird how they do that?
Yeah.
I've seen it. Same thing on the back. Some of them have them on the back from the factory, and some of them don't. The hole's there, for the bolt, but the strap's not. So
I'm not worried about my wife driving the TJ and the spring shooting out. I guarantee so it's not that big a deal. But I was surprised, and my immediate thought was somebody worked on this and didn't put them back. And I don't think so, because it didn't have a lift on it when I got it. And by the way, I've mentioned this before on the show. This is another opportunity. If you're used to putting lifts like on an XJ, and then you get a TJ and you're going to put a lift on it, it ain't the same animal. Because a 4.5 inch lift for a TJ is not a 4.5 inch. Yeah, a 4.5 inch lift for an XJ. I had a 6.5, wound up having 6.5 on my XJ, and I went, well, this TJ is going to need at least a 4.5 inch lift. And then my 5'3" wife, she gets in and out just fine, and she loves being up high and seeing everywhere. But thankfully it's only on 33s. If it is on 35s, it would be a lot worse.
You've got that COG way up there.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a fun Jeep to ride around.
I'm only rocking a 4.5 inch coil spring on mine all the way around, but because of the diameter of my axle tubes and the extra distance that the truss and the aftermarket mounts that I used on the axles, mine's effectively closer to like a 6 or 7 inch overall lift from stock. But it's 4.5 of it is the coil springs. I've got rock crawler triple rates on mine. And of course, you don't realize how tall mine really is, even though I don't think it's that tall. I've got a 24 inch belly, which is quite a bit for a Jeep. But it's not until you park it next to a stock Jeep, like looking at it in the garage next to the wife's four-door that's bone stock on, 235s or 245 series tires. Mine looks like it's a mile high.
Right.
But if you park me next to an average, built 1-ton Jeep that's on Super Duty axles with 40s, mine doesn't look like it's that much tight. It almost, because I don't have the full roof on it either. So it's more comparable that way. But if I could get the same amount of ground clearance that I have under both ends and the chassis that I have now without having the center of gravity as high as it is, man, that'd be great.
Well, the 24 inches to the the floor is really good, especially.
It's to the rail. It's not to the floor. It's to the rail. The bottom of my chassis is 24 inches off the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a tall Jeep.
That's nice. So you guys don't get flooding in the Dallas area, do you?
Oh, see, I'm not in Dallas. I'm right outside of Austin. So yeah, we see flooding.
So that's even closer. I thought because I don't know where Hutto is.
Yeah. So if you go north and east of Austin proper, you come into Round Rock, Georgetown, all that kind of, well, basically it's north of Austin, but just east of the Round Rock, Georgetown area, you've got Hutto and then eventually Taylor and all that stuff, like going out towards Thrall and Throckmorton and all those places. So I'm an hour northeast of central Austin.
Gotcha. How far are you from Hidden Falls?
From my house, I'm about 2 hours. From the shop, an hour and a half ish, depending upon route. From my house to Wolf Caves or K2 is approximately 2.5 to 3 hours, and then 3.5 to Dallas proper. Yeah. If I wanted to go to Mike's shop,
I think I'm 3.5 to Hidden Falls from here in the Houston area. Yeah. So
I could be in Angleton in less than 4 if I want to hoof it. So yeah. I don't know if you're familiar where Angleton's at.
Yeah, I know about it. I don't remember where it's located. It's not any place that I go to. I'm originally from Baytown, which is northwest. Like 20 miles east of Houston, and I'm living in Katy now, which is 20 miles west of Houston. Almost a direct line, not anywhere closer to Dallas. It's all about the same. But yeah. All righty. Well, I think it is about time to do a little Nikki G. Nikki G, take it away.
Hey, this is Nikki G, and I just wired an in-cab winch control for my winch. This master switch turns it on. This monetary toggle switch spools it in and out. Very easy to do. I'm going to do a video of it, so look for that on my YouTube channel, Nick G, because apparently Nikki G was used. Unlike this Nikki G, who's very used. I know you could use this, but if something goes wrong with this, then you might you might be stuck. It's never a bad idea to have a second way to control your winch, just in case something fails with this. As my old dad would say, 2 is 1 and 1 is none, which probably explains why he had 4 kids. It was either that, or I believe it was cheaper to have 4 kids than it was to buy a mule. All right, boys and girls, I'll chat you later, and have a good one. Bye. It's hot in here.
So, Greg, what do you think about Nikki G and these jokes? Are these jokes that are you using? Because I know for a fact that Nikki G will approve you using his jokes on other people.
I approve. I give my stamp of approval.
All right, so ready to join the Jeep Talk Show crew? Become a Patreon subscriber today at xjtalk.com/contact and unlock exclusive perks while supporting the show. Keep the adventure rolling by leaving a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast platform to help grow our Jeep community. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Oh, and please comment. We love the comments. Stay in the loop by following us on social media and by signing up for our newsletter for the latest Jeep news and must-attend events. Got a question or an idea for our next episode? Send it our way. Just go to jeeptalkshow.com/contact. Thanks for riding along, and let's hit the trail with more epic adventures. Greg, thanks so much. Glad to have you back. I missed you, man.
I missed being here. I'm looking forward to next week, guys.
Broadcasting since 2010.
You're my friend. You're my new friend.